Well, shall we get started? Sorry, my dog is
Adorable.
Well, welcome everybody. This is great to see you all here, and I know it is close, very close to the end of the year for some of you, imminent. So I hope that what you're going to be learning today you can apply next year when we go back to who knows what type of schedule, but hopefully not back to the same as we were, hopefully back to an improved situation from what we've all learned during this experience. I'm Jacque Van Houten, past president, really, for KWLA, filling in an interim position. And Jennifer?
I'm Jennifer Kennedy, the Communications Director at KWLA.
So we're glad to have you here for another forum for Kentucky teachers. And today we have a special guest, Madeleine Sexton from Eastern High School in Jefferson County, who's going to be doing some short presentations on synchronous and asynchronous tools that we can use. Jennifer, did you have anything you wanted to say before we get started?
So if you've not been in here before, the format usually is the short intro that we just did. We have a speaker talk for a short while, and then we'll break out into breakout rooms so that we can have some conversations in smaller groups, and then we'll come back and share out in the larger group. So that's the plan for today.
Okay. So shall we turn this over then to Madeleine? And do you have screen sharing? I don't know what you've done with Jennifer yet.
I have screen sharing as necessary. In order to keep it brief, I'm going to mostly just talk about features. So, hi again, I'm Madeleine Sexton. I'm at Eastern High School in Jefferson County, and I currently teach Spanish 2 and Spanish 4 for dual credit. I've also taught Spanish 1. I've not taught Spanish 3 in 10 years for whatever reason. And what I'm going to be focusing on today for using with synchronous and asynchronous learning is a platform called Nearpod. In the chat, go ahead and just let me know if you've heard of Nearpod or used it before, just so I know what kind of audience I'm working with. So, only heard of it, not used. All right, awesome. All right, so it looks like most people have heard of it, haven't used it. As Elena in here can tell you, I am a prophetess of Nearpod. I absolutely love it. I use it all the time in regular classroom, and I have found that it has made a very good transition for students from the regular classroom to NTI. And as some districts are looking at having a mixed solution in the fall or the possibility of not going back right at the beginning, this is another good routine that even if you're at the end of the school year right now, I know we only have about 2 weeks left. If you're thinking about ways to plan for the fall that maybe a combination of synchronous and asynchronous or in the classroom or online or whatever, Nearpod's a really good way to help with that kind of flow. It's something that students can do inside the classroom and outside of the classroom effectively. Nearpod is a platform that requires every person involved to have a device. So if you are in a classroom and can have one-to-one technology, it works really well in that situation, Chromebooks, etc. It works on phones, it works on tablets, it works on computers, all of the above, which again has been great for students in my situation during NTI because they have such a variety of devices. It's nice to have an app that works with all of them and that students can access so long as they have any technology access at all. The other thing about Nearpod is that unlike some platforms, it does support all languages. I know we said earlier that we have a lot of Chinese teachers in here. And while on reporting Chinese will not always show up correctly, it is completely supported in all of the lesson features. So all major languages are supported in the app, which is a huge thing in the world language world. So I am going to share my screen and show you a little, host disabled, attendee screen sharing. I can't share my screen.
Hold on. That's not been a problem in the past.
I can keep talking while you figure it out.
Okay,
It's okay.
sorry.
I have other words. One of the big things I've enjoyed about Nearpod during NTI is the ability to practice all modes of communication at this point with one platform, one click. I know for a lot of students, it's been overwhelming if you go to this platform for speaking, and this platform for reading, and this platform for writing, and this platform for listening. And Nearpod does a great job streamlining all of that so that you can get all of the modes into one concise lesson. And it also integrates with Google Slides. So if you are in a school or district that uses the Google platform, you can also use Nearpod through Google Slides. Full disclosure, my school pays for this. There is a free version. At this point, I have had the paid version for so long that I truly do not know which features are on free versus paid. I will also say that if I was only allowed to have one platform, one thing that the school pays for every year, I would pick Nearpod. Partially because my school is one-to-one, and so all my students do have technology day in, day out. That helps. My husband teaches not a language, but he teaches at the college level, at the university level. Okay, thanks, Jen. And he has used it to curb distraction with students at the university level as well, having all of their own devices, because you have to be on Nearpod to see everything. So here we go. And share. All right, so let's make this a little bigger. I am going to show you some of the features of Nearpod, the ones that are most useful for language teachers, by creating a new one. So you can add content where you can do normal slides. There are some 3D explorations for language teachers, creating a field trip. So if I wanted to go to Madrid, it might be slow because I'm running video. That happens. You can take virtual field trips to relevant locations. This is great for doing things like picture talks, movie talks, see, think, wonder activities for students. But you can see anywhere you go, there are all kinds of visual prompts, and when you click into that, it becomes a 360-degree view, so students can explore, move around, and see what the entire area looks like. You can also use BBC Video, BBC Worldwide. I know they have some educational series, and some of us have utilized those in classes, so you can embed those into a lesson and do more with it. You can embed existing slides that you have from PowerPoint and Google Slides. So if you already have a slideshow that you usually use during the school year, this is a great way to make it interactive and embed it with your students. You can also add videos. You can record your own within this, so you don't have to go from 1,000 different places, or add YouTube. You can have audio that you record for listening, or again, you can add YouTube things. You can add PDFs. It's really a one-stop shop. Web content is any website. You can have students go directly to the website. I like using this for readings. if I'm giving an authentic resource to students that came from the internet, I send them to the original website just so they know, hey, this is real. This wasn't just me creating this for you in this instance. And then activities, which is really where we get into the variety of features that Nearpod has for language learners. The most common one that I use for my students for output is an open-ended question. So if I create an open-ended question, and I'm just going to do all these in English, what is your name? What is your quest? There are options you can have. If you teach AP or have to do time things, you can add a timer. So students have to practice with timed responses. You can add media, video, or audio instructions. So this works great for differentiation for students. Also, if your question is in the target language, you can have it both visually and an audio recording of the same question available, so they get that input from both directions. And students can respond either with text, or you can enable student audio recording. So now this is very new to Flipgrid. I only discovered this feature once we started NTI. But student audio recording is now built in, so students can do speaking or writing, any kind of presentational mode. I have used this where I record a question. My instructions are listen to the audio or listen to the video, and I record a question for the students, and they can record their response, which in my district, we are not allowed to require synchronous learning. So very few students show up for the synchronous parts. And so this is the closest I can get to approximating interpersonal. And it is interpersonal in a way that preps for the AP test. So I guess that's a benefit maybe. So there's that option. I know a couple weeks ago, you all talked about, Flipgrid. Flipgrid now integrates directly with Nearpod. So again, if you're not wanting students to click into 30 different apps to do different activities, they can access it directly from here. I just clicked on Draw It, where you can upload a background image, and you can have students identify parts of the image, draw on it. They can add text to the image. This can also be great for if you add media and you're wanting to do a story listening activity where you're telling the story or someone in the target language is telling the story. Students can draw it as you go along. Again, these are very, widely used in classroom, in-person activities that Nearpod does a great job adapting into an online platform.
So you're using these both synchronously and asynchronously?
I don't have the option of synchronous at this point.
But you, during the classroom, you were doing it.
During the classroom, I was doing it synchronously, where every student had a device. If not every student has a device, I could be telling the story on Draw It and having a student or two do the drawing as I tell it, and then be able to post that for students in our online platform. We use Google Classroom for absent students. It does allow you to post everything after the fact, which is magnificent, and allows some of that interaction for students who miss things.
Elena had a question for I think it was the response, the open-ended question. She wanted to know if there's a way to limit students to audio only, since the AP test is audio responses. Probably not in the free version.
At this point, I have given, I was going to say probably not in the free version. I have only turned it on and said, record your response. And that's the instructions. Don't write. And that's a very new feature. If I were wanting to limit students to only audio, I would probably use this Flipgrid option and integrate with a Flipgrid so long as your district says that that's safe for students, which
And Elena, if you're worried about the timing with Flipgrid, you can put a certain time limit on how long they're allowed to talk. So you kind of get the same feature with the timer. Someone else is asking, Julie is asking, does this work with Google Classroom? Is it a whole separate platform? You had mentioned something about posting it to Google Classroom later.
Absolutely. So I will go to an existing lesson. Welcome to NTI Week 3. So when you are using a lesson, you can set it up to start 2 different ways. You can start it as a live lesson where the teacher controls when each slide moves. And so as you receive student responses, you can actually anonymously share those student responses with the whole class to look at specific features, you know, strong model answers, things like that, providing more input that was personalized by each student. And so you can do a live lesson, or during NTI, I've been doing student-paced. And when you set this up, launch a new student-paced lesson, and it gives you a code. It's always letters. It's always English letters. And you can share it directly with Google Classroom. So if you use Google Classroom or Remind, it works both ways. If you use Canvas or Blackboard or another situation, you can set a link up to the Nearpod so they just click directly, and it will take them straight to their lesson without entering a code, which might be particularly good for littles. Or again, the shift to NTI was rough, and even though we've been using Nearpod every couple of weeks during the school year, suddenly no one knew how to use it. So it's like, just click the link and do what it tells you. So that, there's that. Are there other questions?
Not at the moment.
All right. I am actually going to, both of my students have done this one. I'm going to pull up my Ramadan edition things that, so you can, like I said, you can have slides like a normal slide situation. I use this slide as an open-ended question, and then just had open-ended questions for students back and forth between content and activities. That one's particularly short, but I have, because I'm in an asynchronous environment, I've had to record a lot of my lessons during this time, and you can input those videos into Nearpod as well. So again, everything's all in one place. Watch the video before you do anything else because you need this content to do it. I found that extremely convenient for asynchronous learning, but again, I do use it for synchronous learning during the school year, just usually on teacher-paced, or if it's a day where I need to give students a lot of individual feedback, I'll have a student-paced lesson going in the background while I call students up individually to talk about work, things like that. It works great as management so long as students have devices available.
Madeleine, I think it might be helpful if you could show some of those specific activities.
Okay. I'm going to pull up. One that I actually know. I'm going to pull up the one I did in that PD a couple years ago. Because I know I have a variety of activities there. So I'm going to make it look like a live lesson. If you know how to split your screen and have 2 things up at the same time, feel free to join in and look what's going on. You would just go to nearpod.com and enter the code NYUCR, or you just stay in Zoom and watch what's happening.
Can they use their phones, or do they have to have Chromebooks or computers?
Phones and tablets work great still. Okay. So if you have a phone in front of you and and are using Zoom from your computer and want to try out, see how it works, that's fine. The code is always in the top corner.
So if they come in late,
it's there.
It's there. I love
if that. They get kicked out, if their device dies, it's there. The other thing is it tracks the name. So long as students put in the same name again, if they leave and come back to a student-paced lesson, it will merge the information in most cases. Regardless, the reporting still comes by student names. Okay. So one of the things you can do is have I got a couple people, thanks. You can have a poll, which can be a quick question, previous knowledge, what's your favorite school subject, a quick input, quick output, and then you can, if you all could just type in an answer real fast so I can show you how this ends up looking. Thanks. Okay. And then the teacher can share the results with the students. A student view of this looks very different than the teacher view. The students right now are looking at this chart. And I'm going to see if I can get in and show you the student view as well. So pardon me for a moment. Create intercode. What was,
like this. Oh, you can't see, it's too bright.
No, it's going to be too bright. I knew that's what would happen.
I tried.
NYUCR. Okay. NYUCR. So the students, even though they came in late, they're going to be on the right slide. And yep, that's me. So the student view is this. So the students see one view and have more information. And this works as a picture talk. Students are analyzing data, looking at it, able to have personalized, oh, a lot of people in the class are like this. Why are you like this? You get a lot of personalized information to be able to do PQA or to base other parts of the lesson on with interactivity when you're in a synchronous situation. Back to teacher view. This is, again, how an open-ended question looks like from the teacher view. Just type in letters. Don't even type in a real answer for me. I just want to show people how it looks to students when you share things. Thank you. Kindergarten students can't log on. Yeah, I know. There's a reason I'm a high school teacher, and I really deeply admire people that teach elementary people because I don't know how to work with elementary kids. It would be letter recognition and being able to type out your own name, and then you could just do a bunch of draw it exercises or virtual field trips where they just like scroll around. Maybe. All right. I don't speak French, but I think that's nice. So thank you, Sharon. This is what Sharon said. And the student view is here. So it's completely anonymous. And you can look for certain features if students did a really good thing, and give more input based on student-based answers. And I try to share 2 or 3, you know, the students that posted it, I don't share their names, but they're getting immediate feedback on like, yes, this is awesome. So it gives me an opportunity to see, again, all of student answers in the moment. So my ability to give feedback is way faster in a synchronous setting. In an asynchronous setting, it's just really well divided, so I can see what each person did, and Nearpod makes reports that you can just download a PDF per student. So if you just want to look at how one student was doing after an asynchronous lesson, you just look at their information and give them just feedback overall without having to wade through everyone else's. Let's see. Oh, taking notes. If you're on the student view, there's a spot where you can take notes during it and have mailed to yourself afterwards, which again is more useful for not littles. Sorry, Jen.
I'm pretty.
But maybe 5th graders might be at that point. My high schoolers have found it pretty useful as we go through examples, features. They'll take some extra examples for themselves, add it, and send it to be able to review, or cultural notes, things that we've discussed. Interpretive reading and listening. Here we go. This was a reading, and you can't see this, but on my computer, it actually auto-opened a new window with this website in it. On devices, you might have to click through. But you can have the website and students get to immediately if they're doing a reading that way. It also works great for infographics that way. You can take them to the website with infographics. It doesn't have to be an article. Any website works. So it could be a website of a famous artwork, and you can do See, Think, Wonder with it. You can do reading. There's lots of options. From here, I did IPA practice because these are novice students. This is pretty early and very early in Spanish too. And so we did yet another poll, but I could see what individuals were thinking. One thing that happens with video, if you're doing this synchronously, you can say, only play it on my device, so that your device shows the video up on the screen, so not everyone's making a lot of noise at the same time. Or if students have headphones or you want them to be more at your own pace, you can have it set up so that all devices watch the video individually. So students have the power of pause on videos. It's nice that that works. So I'm gonna say this device only. There's a video. Students answer questions about the video and provide their opinion. This lesson is one that I made before they had the speaking. Otherwise, I probably would have made this one in particular a speaking exercise. Listening with fill in the blanks. This works better in a synchronous environment because students have to be able to open multiple tabs. In an asynchronous environment where they'd have the video and listening to it, but this is matching. For a student, it looks like, the Zoom bar keeps covering my tabs. For a student, it looks like this, where you just drag and drop where the words are, getting used to things, and it can auto check answers, especially in asynchronous mode. What else did I do with this? We did the listening. We did a quiz, which is just, it means multiple choice in Nearpod. If you like doing multiple choice for anything, it's there for you. They just call it quiz. We did a draw it. So circle parts of the routine that she sings in the song.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah. It's not just drawing a picture. It can be circling things. It can be highlighting things. It could be identifying things on a small level. There are lots of ways to use the draw it feature. It can be matching, like draw a line between this and that. Lots and lots and lots and lots of options. And again, from the student perspective, it just looks like this. This is best to do on a tablet or a
This Nearpod allows you to create those activities?
Yes, I did this all by myself.
Oh, really? Mm.
Yes. All of this is me.
But
this
you said the school bought it, right?
The school bought the platform, but you have to create all of the activities.
But I need
so it's a matter of playing around with the free version to kind of see what is available.
What's available and what's not. I know
for you, it's not going to work for you.
I know open-ended answers are part of the free version. Polls are part of the free version. Quizzes are part of the free version. And I think Draw It is part of the free version. And you can get a lot done with just that.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So we're just going to take maybe a couple more minutes and then break into our small groups to discuss, if that's okay, Madeleine?
Yeah, sure.
Does anyone have any questions before we split up? Or I interrupted you, so do you have anything else to tell us?
I'm good. There are more features than that, but those are the most common ones. And again, it's definitely something you can play around with depending on if you have the free version or the paid version.
Do you know if the teacher-led and student-paced, is that part of the free version, or is that?
That is part of the free version. You always have the option of doing it both ways. The free version does limit how many students can be in each lesson and how many lessons you can have live at the same time.
Gotcha.
Which is normal, but I think it's 40 people in a lesson at a time, which is still generally enough for most class sizes. So it may be that you have to, thank you,
Yes.
Carrie Wheeler in the chat. Gamified assessments, Google Classroom, Remind, virtual field trips, matching pairs. Okay.
Have you ever used this with senior?
I see another question in the chat about Senior Wooly. I do not use Senior Wooly, so I don't know what the restrictions on that are. Are there shared lessons with other platforms? That would be platform by platform specific. There is a library of lessons.
That was my next question.
There are lots of lessons in French. It constantly suggests French lessons for me. So
everyone is sad about that.
I'm not sad about that. I'm really glad that there are French resources available, since everything in the world tends to be in a lot of Spanish. But there are some Nearpod created lessons in the Nearpod library. So.
Yeah, agreed.
So there's lots of options. Again, search for what you want. I have not used Nearpod created lessons, just because when I first started using Nearpod like 5 years ago, there weren't any in Spanish, and so I just got used to creating my own and hadn't even checked the library in a while. But there might be awesome things waiting for you there.
And Carrie, you can sort lessons by student and grade level, which I think is important. As an elementary school teacher, a lot of my ideas are not Spanish lessons, but I look for kindergarten lessons on Pinterest, first grade, stuff on Pinterest, and then I just make it in Spanish. So if you could probably look at the Nearpod lessons. What are kindergarten teachers doing? What are third grade teachers doing? And then kind of adapt it to what you need it to be. All right, well, if no one has any more questions in the moment, and if you do, we're gonna have some time when we come back from our breakout rooms. We've kind of done random groups. We've done groupings by language. We haven't done groupings by levels. So how would you like to split up this morning? Throw it in the chat. Would you rather, if you're okay with just being placed randomly, if you'd rather go by language, if you'd rather go by level, let me know. If we do something other than random, it does take me a moment to place everybody, but random or by level, random. By language. Flexible. I always think it's funny when people sign in under other people's names. So confused, Sharon. By language. All right, I have a couple of people who've said by language, random. Okay. I'm seeing mostly flexible, so we're going to do that since that is the easiest, sorry, to do. And we'll put 3 to 4 people in each room. And then if we have time, we can maybe do by language at the end. So, okay, go ahead and accept. It will send you a invitation. You have to click on it to go to the rooms. So you just need to accept, there you go, the invite to the room.
Nearpod. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. The question, do we have some topics, questions we discussed?
Yes, I'm sorry. And as soon as I clicked open rooms, I was like, I forgot to tell them what to talk about and how much time. I'm out of practice of giving direction.
Yeah.
Seriously, guys.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just kind of discussing what are some synchronous, asynchronous activities. How would you use Nearpod? We have 10 minutes. And I'm going to send that to everybody, too. Oh, man. So, yeah. Have any of you guys used Nearpod?
I don't use that. Yeah.
No, but I've been looking for something like it. I'll be honest, like I think about 7 years ago, maybe, when Madeleine first introduced it to me, I looked at it, and at that point, it did not support Japanese text. So I was like, whatever. But apparently it does now, and I just tested like on the student view, and it does. So I might have to try it now.
That's awesome. Yeah, I bet that's really annoying to see all these great things, and then you're like, you always have to test, is Japanese and Chinese going to work on it?
Oh, we still have issues with Google products because I'm curious if the Chinese teachers have this problem too with Japanese, because Japanese uses traditional Chinese characters. Many Google products will render that as a simplified Chinese character, which is wrong in Japanese. And the Google product, like Google Docs, will automatically convert it, which has been an ongoing problem.
But we do have some that are like sending home packets. But then for those that are doing online, I know that they've had the ones that are doing either Google Classroom or Canvas. I'm interested to hear more feedback from them about what's working. But Jennifer, I loved your comment about the kindergartners trying to use this kind of stuff.
I mean, we don't even have one-to-one devices K&1. It's only second grade and up, and I didn't do anything with second graders this year. So like I have Google Classroom set up for 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and that's been a breeze. But then K1, 2, like my second graders have Chromebooks at home, but like I never showed them how to get on the second grade Google Classroom. Right. And so I literally have 4 students who've signed up for that, and I'm like, well, I'm not posting anything there.
I really like, so in terms of activities, I guess our prompt, Jennifer, if you want to kick off, I would love to hear what's working for your students. Then we can share a little bit what I know from like the Chinese side, because there are some things that are just tougher to do because of like keyboard inputs and stuff. But definitely I love the idea with the voice. That's going to be really good.
I've been doing a lot of like mini lessons. So like 6, like I think my longest video is maybe 8 minutes long, where I do like my little entry song. I ask them, how are you? I give them the prompt of how are you? And then I just jump in. Like my first graders, we've been talking about family. So like we sing our little song for the finger family.
Families, yes.
Yes, and then like one video, I've been using Loom and Screencastify, and so I had pulled up a website of like families from around the world, and I was just like, Mama, Papa, Hermano, Hermana, like, what do you see in this picture? Or like kindergarten, I'll go through the whole lesson, and then at the end, I'll switch to English, because I have like an activity or like a website that I want them to go to. And I, like in class, I may or may not have used English. I would have tried in Spanish first. But because I'm not giving them the directions, I'm giving the parents the directions. I'm like, hey, here's a website you can go to. You're going to do this thing, click here. And, but they made us optional, like 2 or 3 weeks in. Like at the beginning, it was like, you have to do math, reading, and one special area. And then they were like, math, reading, special area is optional. And now we're down to math or reading. Special area is very optional. And Fridays is your catch-up day. So it's like.
Yep. That's what I'm hearing from my teachers, except for the high school ones. They're they're trucking along. But yeah, it's been a journey.
Mm-hmm. And I think when we go back in the fall, if we like, my ideal would be that we do some sort of like mixed version, like maybe they're only there 2 days of the week and then they're doing work at home. So then I can do some synchronous activities with them in class. Which then I can give them a piece of paper and say, here, because that was the other thing, like we only gave out worksheets in that first packet. And then they were like, you're optional. We don't want you in the building making copies. So then everything went on Class Dojo. Mostly like I was getting a little bit of responses. And then as soon as we became optional, it was like, like next to nothing. My Spanish speaking parents, the kids who don't need Spanish, those are the ones that are doing my lessons.
Heritage learners. Bless. My goodness. Well, it's been, we've been, I've been trying, talking to my teachers about what they're doing. So we have something like that. So in one district where we just started Chinese and they've only been doing it for like a few months, the principals were like, don't worry about it. But both those teachers already had like the Google Classroom. So they are updating stuff for people to like, if kids want to check it out. And, so they're doing that, which I appreciate for them. We have other teachers where it's just NTI packets. Morgan County, I think, and that's partly to do with internet access. I think because we're talking West Liberty, Kentucky, and like the surrounding areas like Ezel, like way out in the hills. And so they're just doing packets. I know the middle school, high school's doing a bit more online, but it's like 1 day a week for like 2 hours. Like my Chinese teacher high school teacher meets with her students in like more of like a chat optional thing.
So Thursday we had Brenna Bird from UK present, and I highly recommend you go and watch that video. Okay. Because she had, it was kind of dry. She just kind of gave a presentation, but it was such good information. It was based on research. It was like when she had taught back in 2006 online, but she was kind of showing ideas for synchronous and asynchronous and best practices for synchronous, because synchronous online is different than synchronous in person. And so like, what are the best practices for that? It was a really good talk.
I'll definitely check that out for sure.
We have just about 1 more minute. I'm going to close the rooms, but.
Okay. It's good. It's been an adventure trying to support them and principals and trying to be like, don't drop us, please. Like, because we're basically guest teachers. It's a little bit different from the Spanish program where they are like paying salaries. We are like a grant sponsored, so they just have a program fee, and it's like we really. So we're also pushing a lot for this over the summer, like how we're going to fill those spots for teachers who are leaving. That's going to be a big thing if they're not here to start the school year. So we're going to have a big challenge supporting that. And so these kind of things will be really helpful, especially if we're doing like people in my office at UK are like teaching a virtual lesson that's being shared to like 3 districts at the same time to like teach first grade Chinese. Like it will be a journey. So,
and I think, go ahead, Madeleine.
Again, the reporting on this, I didn't get into the reporting on Nearpod, but maybe not kindergarten, first grade, but higher level
Yeah.
The reporting on this is so convenient for being able to divide into like different schools. You can have 3 lessons running at the same time.
That will be fantastic.
So you can have, if one person's teaching digital to 3 different schools, you can have a student.
Damn why.
So what is your actual name if it's not us?
My actual name is Sharon Frode.
Okay. Nice to meet you. I'm Laura.
Hi, Laura. Nice to meet you. So the guy that made my icon for me, he's the creator of Kung Fu Panda. So it's pretty special.
Oh, wow.
How fun times.
Yeah. He's a high school. He has a friend from junior high and high school. So I've known him a long time.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I love your background now.
How you did that, huh? How you did your background? I want to learn.
It's in the Zoom settings. The backgrounds are all in the Zoom settings. You have to like go into Zoom when you're not on a call. I mean, I guess you can do it from a call, but it's easiest when you're not on a call.
I was trying to do it now. Maybe that's the reason, because we're on a meeting.
Does anyone want to share out kind of what they, if you heard something new, or if you have any other questions or an activity that you're doing that works well synchronously or asynchronously?
Well, I do want to share that I think that that's a wonderful program, and I'm excited about learning how to use it, because my problem has always been the lack of resources for French. And this is just amazing. So thank you so much. And I agree with Lee Chen 100%. This is going to be really nice.
Good. There is no bigger compliment than being told that your PD was useful.
Well, and what's nice is it fits our current situation. It can be adapted to what our situation could be. You know, if we are back in the classroom full time, you can use it there too. I like the flexibility of it, which is nice.
I like that it seems like a more streamlined way to integrate the stuff I've been doing on Google Classroom as separate, discrete activities. So definitely useful if I can get myself to use it.
Come on, Elena.
Yeah, I know.
I'm right next door.
I know, but I'm so bad at adapting new technology. And I know, like, I'm the one who like does the paperwork to pay for it every year. But
I know.
I know.
Seriously, I wouldn't have Nearpod without her.
So Elena, tell us, how much does it cost for a school?
All my department head stuff I left in the classroom.
I have the quote. Hold on.
Yeah. I remember being very reasonable though. Like, it's a year-wide subscription. I mean, year long. That's the word.
We have it for the entire school.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It is not just useful for language. We have it for an entire school of 2,400 kids.
Well, and I think the more that you do, more teachers are using it across content or grade levels, the more likely kids are going to use it when they're at home in a situation like this, because, you know, it's familiar. You know, they're not trying to keep track of 8 different kinds of technology because 8 different teachers are giving them different things. We saw that in my school this year with Class Dojo, where, you know, before we had maybe a couple of teachers using it and getting so-so results in communication, whereas when we went school-wide, you know, most classrooms have, you know, 100% parent sign-ups for it. So
I'd like to ask the teachers that are here, because my role is I coordinate a exchange visiting Chinese teacher program. So I have 28 teachers in 7 districts. Some as far north as Fort Mitchell, Kentucky, right by Cincinnati. Some as far east as West Liberty. Actually, one of them's on the call. One of my Fort Mitchell teacher, Kitten County, is on the call.
Oh,
and then as
wave
far,
your hand. I'm in Villa Hills. Wave
Yes.
your hand, Fort Mitchell.
Fort
Where
Mitchell,
are you?
Fan Lauscher, wave your hand. She's the one who's in San Francisco right now.
Oh.
She's my Kitten County teacher.
Okay.
And then we also have teachers in Henderson, Kentucky, and West Kentucky. So like part of my job is to visit all of them, which is a lot of driving and a lot of time just spent on the road to spend just a little bit of time in the classroom. So I almost kind of like, also if they create something like this and then they could share a code with me, then I can go and like attend the class sort of remotely, which is kind of a really like possibly like I guess it would have to work out like Jacque, like how that might work with the school. I don't know how that would work with permissions, but like then I feel like that would give me another chance to see what they're doing and help them like give feedback and troubleshoot and stuff. So I really do like if, as we're adopting more of this online, it also just helps me sitting in my office in Lexington, so that I don't have to spend 3 hours round trip going to visit my Morgan County teacher. Even though I do love seeing her and seeing her in action in the classroom. But that's also another thing to me that sort of jumps out for my position.
Maybe Tom Welch would like to say something. And I'm thinking, Tom, don't get panicked. I'm thinking about the type of teacher you're looking for your research.
Yeah, actually, and it may include some of you. I really know that when fall starts in whatever form it does, teachers are going to be facing this really serious situation where even the idea that kids coming into like a Spanish 2 class or a German 3 class will be like they were before. We all know that some kids have not done one thing since the middle of March. And some kids will have forged ahead and not only done everything you ask, but things besides. So what I'm really trying to look to find out is, are there some of you who have been using a proficiency-based model, competency-based for advancement of kids, so that it doesn't go by years depending on level, but instead by proficiency level? Even if you have them in the same class, you may have a second period class that has some novice high kids and some intermediate mid, and they're working at different places. And I know this is kind of mind-blowing, but I think this is going to be the situation where we really are finding ourselves. And I really would like to start finding a cadre of teachers who can help everybody else figure out how do I go from a regular French 2 class to something like that. So is there anybody in the room that has any experience like that? And or if you know somebody, you could email Jacque or me. I'll put my email in the chat. But I'd love to hear your thoughts about that, because gosh, I just don't know what teachers in any subject are going to be doing to get over that. Or you can't get over it, it's to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
I could maybe say, like, not this year, but in previous years, I have had Japanese 1 students approach me about skipping Japanese 2 because they want to get to Japanese 3 before they graduate, if they started as like sophomores or juniors. Mm-hmm. And I told those kids, do the mastery grades for Japanese 2. Here they are. Because the mastery grades are always proficiency based, the way that I grade them. And I've had 2 kids in the past pull that off. And they both ended up doing very well in Japanese 3 because they just did tons and tons and tons of independent study, and they came and talked to me about how they were going to do the mastery grades, and then they did them. And I'm like, great, you did all the mastery grades for Japanese 2, you can go straight to Japanese 3.
Yeah, and that is possible. A lot of people in Kentucky don't know, but if a student can pass the final assessment for a course, they can get credit for the previous one as well. So I know when I was teaching French, and Lou Young was my Spanish colleague across the hall, she and I had a number of kids who were very gifted linguistically and very excited about language learning. So we ended up with a whole crop of kids, maybe 10 or 12, who skipped. They were like in second year French, for instance, and then skipped. So the next year they were in third year French and second year Spanish. And so we had a bunch of kids who did both AP French and AP Spanish. But what I'm really looking for too is, how do you deal with learners of such disparate proficiency levels within one class, instead of just trying to pretend that they're all the same?
I mean, that comes up in elementary a lot. I mean, especially by the time they get to 5th grade, I can have students that are heritage learners. I can have kids I've had since kindergarten, so this is their 6th year. I've got kids who started at the beginning of the year with me, and then, you know, after Christmas, we always have a couple of kids show up who've never had Spanish before. So, I mean, a lot of it is you just have, I differentiate, like, you know, we do a lot of goal setting in my classroom, and I talk about the proficiency levels. So whenever we're getting ready to do an activity, especially where they have to do output, I say, okay, if you're novice low, that's fine. You just got here. Here's what yours might look like. Here's, if you know, your goal this year is novice mid, this is what yours might look like. Novice high, you know, I need to see something a little bit more extensive. So
this is where I see a real advantage to using Linguafolio, for example, because then it's very clear to the learner what the proficiency requirements are. And then they, you know, we have a variety of really valid assessments that can be used to help that.
And Jennifer, we might think of doing a session just on Linguafolio. So teachers who aren't familiar with it could learn, because it's another free tool, free until July 1st. So I think, you know, time to sign up would be now.
Yeah.
And speaking of signing up, I hope you're signing up as members of KWLA, which goes free for a while too, and will get you, you know, a little bit of a bonus into that conference that we're going to have online in the fall. So be thinking about that too. And I think we're running out of time, so perhaps.
We are. So yeah, free membership is available until this Friday on the 15th. So please sign up at kwla.org. We are also looking for conference proposals. So please submit a proposal to present September. We are moving online. It will be something similar to this. It's a mix of what a regular conference schedule would be, but also online. So it's not going to be just like a webinar, different webinars all day, but like it'll be more like this, interactive. You'll have several options, and then everything will be recorded. So that's the great thing, because when you're at conference, there's always like 1 hour or 2 in the day where you're like, I want to go to all of these. They'll be recorded, so you can come back and look at the ones maybe that you weren't able to hop into. So, but we need presenters, so please submit your proposals. Any other announcements, Jackie, that I'm missing?
No, but I think also we should consider in the future, and then this group might be interested in attending, having one of these sessions talk about the future of language education. You know, how we can move forward, what we should be thinking about.
Absolutely. And I do need to make a correction. I put 3 o'clock for Thursday. So if you want to join us again on Thursday, we're actually moving that to 4. I'm going to have to resend the email, just so there were several people who couldn't make it during school hours. So we're moving it to 4 so that, Madeleine, is that all right?
I'll make it work.
Okay, let's connect you and me, because if we have to keep it at 3, we'll keep it at 3.
No, it's okay. I'll make it work.
Okay.
Not very many kids think of that. We can just do it a different time.
Oh my God. Okay, sorry.
It's okay.
I'm the worst.
No, you're not.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you everybody for coming. And we'll see you around. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so glad we had so many people join.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is I was thinking this is such a good way, like if I end up using Nearpod, this will be such a good way for me to upload one thing and be like, you have one thing to do this week for NTI, but it's actually multiple modes.
Oh, Elena, you have no idea.
Like this week, too.
This week, I didn't do several different assignments, and the kids are like, oh my goodness, why is there so much work? There is definitely less work this week. It's just not one link.
Yeah.
This week is definitely less work than it's been all of the other weeks.
As long as you give them
just
one
AirPod,
thing, if it's one thing, then they're like, oh, it's just one thing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's psychological. And I mean, when you were thinking about that, I was like thinking back to the Loom video I made this week for my 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, where I was like, here's everything in Google Classroom. Click on this and then do this. You can do this and this. And I'm like, if I just put it in Nearpod, it's like, click on this and then just click through and do the things.
And even if you want to provide choice, you can say, hey, I need to see at least X amount of completion, because it reports it to you as percentage completion.
Mm-hmm.
So, or you can say, I need to see at least 1 of the matching pairs and 5 of the open response. And that gets more specific for high schoolers, I'm sure, but you can still provide choice.
So can you add links too? Cause like I like to use Edpuzzle. Like if I could put a link, okay. So I can have a slide that was like, do this Edpuzzle.
Yep.
Okay.
No, it's a really great platform for lessons. I use it when I have subs, and I'm just like, get on the Nearpod. Everything you need is on the Nearpod.
Madeleine,